Hi everybody, welcome back. It's your favorite professor, Dr. Togans. All right, we're going to move on to the circumference and area of a circle in ALEKS. This is unit 2 still. Most students tend to ask me questions when we get to this point because of the language between the exact or approximate numbers. So you have the questions asking about exact area and exact circumference, but then there is a difference between that and the approximate area and approximate circumference. So if you see there's a picture of a circle and you see that they give you that it has a diameter of 6 yards. And like I always say, click on the explanation. There you can see the formulas for the area and the circumference. So the area of a circle with radius r is a equals pi r squared. And then there's the more tab. There's probably more explanation of each part of the formula. And then the circumference c of the circle is given by the formula c equals 2 pi r. But you can also get the circumference with pi times the diameter, and the r in the circumference is also stands for the radius. So in this problem they gave you that the diameter was 6 yards, and so you have to pay close attention to the difference between 6 yards and what it would be if it was asking you to use r, meaning the radius. So the diameter is twice the radius, or the radius is half of the diameter, which is why they divide by 2 right here. I'm just trying to draw a little arrow. So that is how they got 3 yards. And then once you have that, you just plug 3 into the letter R. So I'm going to write it a little bigger. I'll just make a little arrow here. So A is equal to pi r squared. And then you just insert 3 into the letter R for radius, and you end up with, because 3 times 3 is 9 pi. Now, the thing that I always tell students is, if you cannot remember both, just remember one. So if you can remember that this is answering the first part where they're asking for the exact, right? They're asking for exact area. So I'm going to draw those little arrows there. And then they're asking for the exact circumference. So either remember that the exact includes pi in the answer, or you can remember that the approximation does not include pi. So you have to try to think to yourself what makes it easier, okay? So then because they gave you the diameter right here, then the circumference is just the number for the diameter, which is 6 times pi. Okay? And then you just have to remember if ALEKS is asking for you to put in the yards or the yards squared. That's another thing you have to remember, that for the area, it's yards squared because we multiplied r times itself, and you get a square. And you also need to just be careful about, those units. But in the approximation, it says that you're going to round to the nearest hundred. So you have to be mindful when you get the approximation that you are going to get a decimal. So you multiply 9 times the symbol pi, and I believe that's in the calculator. or you could use a scientific calculator. You could use Desmos. But for the approximation, I always remember both, because one exact is just the number and includes pi. But the approximation is, for me, a little easier to remember because approximation usually is a decimal. It's not an exact number. And here we are rounding to the nearest hundredth. So if I go to the next one, I believe it's kind of small, but it shows you how you enter the answers. So it is really important that you enter them just like the example, which is why I'm always emphasizing that you click on the explanation so that you can see what it's like, what it looks like, and what decimal place you round to, because you're using a software program that is sensitive to that. Okay, so just jot that down, think about that, and just be really, really careful. And really, if and when you get one wrong, you just reflect on the possible, usually it's a small mistake that you might make. Okay, so for the last example, this is a little bit different. So it's asking for the area and circumference. I just wanted to point out that the yard and yard squared are located over here. You most likely will not have yard cubed. My computer was lagging a little bit, so I had to write ahead of time. So r is equal to 5 right here. And then you are going to just substitute the r in for the letter r for the area. So I'm answering part A, exact area and exact circumference. So the area is pi r squared, and you know, r is equal to 5, so it's 5 times 5. So you get 25 pi here. And then the circumference is going to be 2 pi r. I had to wait a little bit for that 5 to show up. So 2 pi r is 2 pi times 5, and you get 10 pi. And I just wanted to show you a really powerful online calculator. It's free. The graphing calculator and scientific calculator are very similar, but I'm going to just use the scientific calculator right now. So if you wanted to figure out the approximation, you type 25 times pi, and the wonderful thing that Desmos does, and you can see the web address right up here, desmos.com/scientific, is it calculates it without you even clicking enter. But for you to do the next one, and this would be the approximate area. And then if you wanted to, I'm just going to click enter. If you wanted to do the approximate for the circumference, you just type it in, and again, if you want to do another calculation, you would hit enter, but you can see it right there. So you have 78.54 for the approximate area and 31.42 for the approximate circumference. So I hope you liked this video. I hope you had fun. That's always my goal. See you next time.